Welcome to Sib Spot. Today's stories again are from Malicious Compliance. Story 1 is by Monty Python 12. Strong-arming me into a viewing? Fine, but you won't get inside the apartment. I'm renting an apartment from a company whose renting agents are somehow all unprofessional, late and kinda slow. Had a plethora of issues with them throughout 10 months, but that's a story for another time. As I've told my landlord I'll be moving out, they instructed their agents to find a new tenant for the apartment. The way it worked, the agent would email me with a proposed date and time, and I would confirm that I'll be in at this time. I've got a cat, so I insisted on being present during the viewings. The agents never had keys. I think that's because the landlord's office is at the other end of the city, and they can't be bothered to drive an extra hour each time there's a viewing to pick the keys up, and then drop them off. So they relied on me to let them in each time. Apart from a couple unannounced show-ups followed by passive-aggressive emails about the messy property, all was well until a week ago. The agent emails me saying they've got a viewing on the 13th. I respond saying I've got work that day and won't be able to do the 13th. She simply replies, "If you won't be able to accommodate this request, I'll ask the landlord for a 24-hour notice of entry, which is legally enforceable." Okay, do that. The day comes, I get a call. "We're downstairs." "Congratulations, but I'm not at home. I hope you brought keys this time." Man, I wish I could see her face then. We went back and forth a bit. She tried to threaten me with legal action, to which I just replied that I don't object to them entering. They're unable to enter through their own negligence that I have nothing to do with. Naturally, got an email from the landlord asking me to be more cooperative next time, which was promptly ignored. I honestly would write back to them and make sure they know that they're being negligent by not bringing their own keys. If you do a notice of entry, that basically means we're going to come in. Okay, you're welcome to come in. I'm not preventing you from going into my apartment, but I won't be there to let you in, so bring keys. It's that simple, and the fact that the landlord wrote to you and said that you need to be more cooperative next time, there's not going to be a next time. You're moving out. So F them. Big time, F them. Down in the comments by Downa Rubison. You were exactly as cooperative as you could be. You said you weren't in. You said you couldn't be in. You agreed that with 24 hours notice, the landlord could require entry. That doesn't require you to be there and let them in. Underneath that by Cheese Nuggets 2003. No, you see, capital holders think they are doing folks a favor by charging us money to live in their buildings, so we obviously are supposed to just not go to work, but still somehow come up with money for rent whenever they want entry into their own property. And underneath that by the OP. Surprisingly, my landlord has been nothing but reasonable and accommodating towards me. I've got a feeling they know their agents are idiots by now. It's as simple as bring keys. It's that simple. I don't know why they have to cause an issue like this. Our next story is by Acceptable Car 3150. The name of my son must be on the calendar? Okay. Not my story, but my father's. Please excuse my English, I'm not native. Before I, 31 male, was born, my parents had a friend who was blind and he had a very original name. A variation of an actual name, which is pretty rare in the literature of my country. But because it was very uncommon, people tended to think it was a mistake when they saw it in writing. The actual name is very close to another name. And they would scratch it out and replace it with the legitimate name. Honest mistake, to be fair. My parents' friend was an absolute treasure and gave me his name in his honor, but he advised my parents to do a little modification to it for my own sake. So my father decided to add a silent letter at the end to make sure people don't think it was a spelling mistake. That choice took place 2 months before I was born. This next sentence tells me this person's a gamer. After I spawned into this world, thanks Mom, my father came to the town hall in order to state that I was born that day. Classic procedure here, and state my name. When the agent saw my name, he had a doubt and asked if it was legal. Keep in mind that it was a very small town, pretty conservative. My dad knew that sometimes officials tend to freak out a bit with new names, but as long as it's not something like Google or Kingslayer, they let it slide. The mayor of the town passed by and took a look on the paper and said that this name was not possible to my father, and added something like, "If it is not in the calendar, Christian name day tradition, I won't sign this paper." As I said, it's a very conservative town. My dad responded, "It has to be on the calendar? Fine, my son will be named Fête nationale, F-E-T-E, nationale. This sounds French to me. Counterpart of Independence Day or Thanksgiving. The mayor, you can't do that. You will destroy that child's life. My dad, watch me. My dad proceeded to fill in another paper with the name Fête nationale and handed it to the mayor, who, according to my dad, sighed and signed the first paper. Today, unfortunately, I don't talk to my dad anymore for various reasons, but I really like that unique name. So thank you to my dad, and thank you for the story you told every Christmas before we took separate ways. I'm really curious what this person's name is. Our next story is by Different Culture 143. Girl I met wanted book recommendations without gay side characters. So I was hanging out with my friend and her friend from high school. At some point, books came up in the conversation since we are all avid readers. We started recommending books to one another, and I mentioned Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. The high school friend mentioned that she started reading the first book, but stopped because someone told her that there are gay side characters. This pissed me off, but I brushed it aside and continued to recommend a few other books. Per her preference, I made sure the side characters were straight. However, since she didn't say anything about a main character, every single book that I recommended had a queer protagonist. Not queer-coded, not determined to be gay by fans, but full-out queer protagonists. Here are some of the books, as well as some that were recommended on other subs. The City Beautiful, The Secret Life of Albert Entwistle, Under the Whispering Door, Being Human, This Is How You Lose the Time War, Girl Mans Up, Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe. Edit, the girl who said she doesn't like gay characters is not someone I hang out with. We are both at a mutual friend's house, and I don't plan on going out of my way to hang out with her again. Sounds like a solid choice, OP. She is not somebody that I would want to spend time with either. Down in the comments by Metal Joe Texas. She will read the synopsis of each book and not read the books. Probably. Underneath that by Rethinker. Sometimes it matters more for the person who sends the message than the person who receives it. The significance lies in making a point here. Couldn't agree more strongly with that. Our last story today is by KS1KAS. Go home and don't come back until your hair is dried. Fine by me. I'm a dyspraxic. For those unsure what it means I have no sense of time and my mind works faster than my body. So I can trip and bump into things and get called clumsy and lazy by people who don't understand it. My employer was aware as I notify everyone and put it on application forms. During my time working in the local hospital as an administrative assistant in radiology, I did fairly well at attending work on time. But to ensure this happened, I sometimes had to miss out steps of my morning routine. Usually things like brushing my hair and having to do a messy bun so it looked tidy but can be done in 2 seconds, etc. On this particular day, I had a shower, and once I was out of the shower, I realized I only had time to dress and get to work, so I must have been on a slow day. I dress as fast as I can and rub my hair as dry as I can and brush it so it's neat but damp and rush to work. Luckily, I live by the back entrance, so only had to walk 15 minutes, if that, across the site, and I made it on time. Once at work, I got logged on and started working when my manager came over and said I should go home and dry my hair. This annoyed me since it wasn't dripping wet, it was damp but almost dry. So I confirmed that they were sending me home to ensure my pay, because if I agreed to leave, they didn't have to pay me, but if they told me to leave, then they had to pay me. They confirmed I had to leave, and they were telling me to because I refused to leave willingly for damp hair. I walked home and realized they have no idea if I have a hair dryer or not, and since I'm being paid for the time it takes for me to dry my hair, I'll sit watching TV until it's dry. I must have sat there for 2 to 3 hours and went back in time for my dinner break. Then in the afternoon, got back to working. The manager came over to ask me what took so long. I responded my hairdryer broke, and as you guys didn't want me in till my hair was dry, I waited for it to dry naturally. They never complained about it again after that. And the last paragraph they wrote is kind of a jumbled mess. It basically said that the manager liked them in the end, and that she got money together for her, and everybody in the office gave her personalized gifts, and when she decided she was done working there. They remedied any issues that they had. I've never heard of somebody being dyspraxic before. I've heard people say things like their minds work faster than their body does, I didn't know that it was actually something you could be diagnosed with, so today I learned something and I hope you guys all did as well. Dyspraxic. It sounds almost like dyslexic to me. Our stories for today have come to a close. Until we meet again, have a wonderful day.